everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at F by Imai Arata. This is out by Glacier Bay Books. Glacier Bay is an awesome small press publisher that focuses on bringing small press and independent manga to the English world through translations. And I just think the mission of what they're doing is amazing, and the books that they're producing is amazing. This book, I just love the design of it. It is a really nice looking design. So I've seen this design online, and I know that Ryan Holmberg, our friend Ryan Holmberg, who translated Yuichi Yokoyama's Plaza for Sean, also translated this book, and I've been becoming more and more of a fan of Ryan as a translator. Not just him as a translator, but basically him as a curator of taste. The books that he picks to translate are always just really thoughtful, really amazing books, or really historically irrelevant books. And this book is no different. This is really, really one hell of a piece of fiction. Part of what makes this a hell of a piece of fiction is that there's a real confusion between reality and fiction. So it says, though the names of actual individuals and organizations are used in this book, this story is purely a work of fiction. And that makes it very interesting. And it's a very strange mashup of things that go into making this story. And I'll try to explain that as we go. But basically, you're introduced to this character here who is presenting himself as Imai Arata right out the gate. But almost anything he says is followed by like a little mental, like, not true, I know I'm lying. But this person is a reporter. They've got fake credentials, and they're trying to take a bus towards Fukushima, and he's presenting himself. His real name is John Cantley. He's using a fake passport to present himself as Imai Arata, and is going to a town called Tohoku that's up in the north and has been affected by, this is all set in Japan after the Fukushima reactor meltdown during the earthquake and tsunami there. But in this is a fictional world in which after that the government has no longer been supporting the area, so a bunch of local people cede from Japan, and then foreign actors get involved. And F is this group of foreign actors who are trying to use the civil war of Fukushima area ceding from Japan to start a global takeover. That's like the crazy plot of this. But it's tied to this John Cantley and this one other character, somebody Dewey, if I remember the name correct. I don't know if I have a tag on that page, but two actual real-world reporters, a British reporter and an American reporter, who actually held captive, and one of them at least was decapitated. There's a big essay in the back by Ryan that I haven't fully read. I glanced through. But these were people who were, I believe, in Syria or somewhere in the Middle East. So he's combining this idea of war reporters and some real-world war reporter deaths and stories with this fictional setting of this war going off in the North Japan. So it's a very bizarre story. The artwork looks like maybe it was done digitally to me, and the reproduction is definitely done with halftoning on the line art. It's not just put out as line art. So everything has this dot pattern to it, but that's probably just my eyes because I'm always looking for those things. But I really like the scratchiness and the craziness of the art. Like here, they're entering the war territory and their bus gets hit by an IED or something. And just the explosiveness of it all really adds to this sense of tension of being in a war zone, a DMZ or something like that. And I just really, really appreciate that. This does remind me a little bit of Brian Wood's DMZ book, by the way, mentioning DMZ. So here we go. We're later in the book, and now we're getting an introduction to this group of people named F, and this seems to be the leader with this kind of weird Joker face and the beret. And they're, like I said, involved in these military operations to try and take over North Japan, and then they're going to use that to take over the world. Something else that's really interesting about this book that I don't know that I've ever seen in a manga before is the document within a document trick, or as our friend Brian Davis calls it, the book as the archive. So here you have just a translation. The following is a transcript of a video speech by journalist John Cantley, uploaded to a video sharing platform by his captors, the State of F, in fall of 2014. And here you get just this like video report transcribed, and this really, really, really explains the politics of what's going on in this fictional area of the world, and it's really thoroughly worked out, which I like. So this is just a really rich piece of like how the world works in terms of politics and war and reporting and stuff like that. It's a really good look at the kind of structural issues. It's like a critique, but not a negative critique necessarily, just a thorough evaluation of. That's what I mean when I say critique, is just a thorough evaluation of this situation. Within that scratchy artwork, you do get some obviously referenced images that are of the damage to the Fukushima area, and you see what's happened to the coastline in this town, and those feel just never been there, but I feel like I know what this place is just through these drawings. That's quite amazing, really powerful art. And then here we get, it's kind of crude drawing, like scratchy, and some things that, like, if a student was doing it, I'd probably show them how to try and like work it out and clean it up a little bit. But here it's just so effective for the brutality of these people being beat. So they've become, and again, spoiler alerts, I want to get into the book. So this reporter, now this fake reporter presenting himself as Imai Arata, has been captured by F and is now being used as like a revolutionary himself. He's being used to produce basically media content. And I don't want to give away all of what all that is, because it's pretty interesting and pretty brutal. One of the things that they do is they fake, and here you get the sense that there's kind of a North Korea vibe to this as well, that they're faking how pleasant it is inside of this I guess overly militarized zone, the seceded zone of North Japan. And so you get this fake Imai Arata going around kind of being like, look how nice it is. Thank goodness F came in here and took over and cleaned things up. And he's basically becoming part of their propaganda machine to survive. But also it seems like there's a bit of a hope. And this is what makes this book really interesting, is it's a fiction, but it's presented so much as like a Joe Sacco book where Imai Arata is like on the ground telling you what's happening. And so there's a sense within the story that he's just going along with this to survive, but is really hoping to get saved by his government and come out and do a tell-all on what was going on the other side. Like, hey, they made me put out these videos. It was all fake. Like, I can give you the inside scoop. And that's really more impactful when the author is kind of being an unreliable narrator. And even though you've been told it's a work of fiction, you kind of just get drawn into it as it's this potentially real thing. And you're rooting for him, and you're thinking, oh my God, like he made it out. And this comic book is that inside expose. And so it adds this other layer of interest to these reporting comics that you get the Guy Delis and the Joe Sacco that enter these kind of dangerous areas and make comics while they're in there. Here's another look at the art. Here, that like real kind of scratchy quality of the art's perfect for the decay of this swamped, flooded, burned out area. I love this bit here. I am a combatant in a war of information. I create my own fiction. I lie so that I may live. That seems very relevant to the world that we all live in now. I feel like we're all combatants in a war of information, and that's forcing us all to create our own narratives about ourselves, at least, not necessarily fictions, but social media. What I'm doing right now is this constant self-narrativizing, and some of that's truthful and some of it's just not even a lie. It's just making up stories so that we may live. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. So those two panels really, really spoke to me and spoke to the world that we live in. And I think this book really speaks to the world we live in. The combination of media, government, like political revolutions, natural disasters, information warfare, all that kind of stuff is covered in a really complex and compelling way, and pretty compact too for a manga, like 200 pages. It's pretty compressed, which is impressive how much they put in here. And then there's even some photographs of like real devastation from the area, and then there's a little bit of an ending, and then you get, as you always do with the Ryan Holmberg book, you get this really, really thoroughly researched historical essay that relates to the comic, all of this real world stuff, like this John Cantile, who was he? And this is, going into his story about being on the inside. So I'll have to read that at some point as I get more time. It's just some of these longer essays and stuff I just skip for time's sake because I'm always in a time crunch. So this looks really interesting, and normally with the history of manga stuff, it's not so compelling to me because I just not so interested. I'm a futurist more than a historian. That's just my nature. But this one, since it's so tied up with the strange concoction that is this story, and it's tied up with some installation arts that Imai Arata has done as well, it intrigues me and I want to know more. It seems like this artist also does like a lot of multimedia video and things playing with these same, like, I don't want to say mockumentary, but faux documentaries to make his point. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting that he's doing this across multiple mediums and has managed to make such a compelling comic. And I'm kind of curious about his other media work as well. So I don't know if I'll ever follow up with that on the channel because that's not really what we do here, but that's probably something I will follow up on. So very, very amazing book. Really, really great stuff. As with everything from Glacier Bay, I really believe in the mission of Glacier Bay and hope you can all support them. I know they're quickly running out of F and may or may not go to a reprint. So if you want this, go grab a copy while it still exists in the world. If you appreciate what we're doing here on the channel and want to support us, there's the two ways that you can do that. One is through our Patreon. We have a couple different tiers of interaction on there, including polls and some exclusive content. We really appreciate that support, and the money we make from there we turn around and buy some of the helps buy the books that review, so we try and turn that right back around to other artists in the community. And then the best way to support what Living the Line is doing, the Living the Line mission, is to support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll take a look at some options of some books you could get now. Plaza by Yokoyama Yuichi. This is translated by Ryan Holmberg and is very large for a manga. So that's a really cool feature of this book, this standard manga size. And this is just a 200 some odd page representation of what Yokoyama Yuichi thinks of the Carnival Parade, and he's just made this like relentlessly loud and rhythmic book that pushes all kinds of amazing boundaries of what comics and manga are, and we could not recommend this book more. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.